Yeah, I mix a lot of other genres. Yes, I have.
Yes.
In fact, that's kind of another one of the goals. My goals for the next few years is that I want to do more things in the alternative world or other things. I do a lot of electronic based stuff. Of course, coming from Europe, I have a lot of influence in that. But no, my barrier of entry is, do I like the song, and especially even more nowadays where genres tend to have less of yeah, they all, I don't want to say they're all the same, but there's a lot less distinction between this and that,
Right.
and so yeah, I'm open.
Yeah, we're living in an age where everything is influencing everything. It's
Correct.
crazy. I don't know, it's like it's for good and for bad, like it's great because like you get to see what people are doing in, like, I don't know, Zimbabwe, but everyone has access to all the same stuff. So there's I guess a little less uniqueness to specific scenes or specific whatever artists and records.
Yeah.
Do you have any like specific tricks that you do in the mix that you think maybe people might want to hear about that maybe is less known?
Let me see.
Special IRKO practices, that your typical mixers may be doing.
Yeah. I don't know if they're very unique, but maybe a couple of things come to mind that I don't see a lot of my colleagues do. And that is, I do symmetrical stereo automations. So I like to do a lot of these kind of things where we're going from left to right and right to left with different instruments over the time and the development of the song. Again, it's nothing, life changing, but I don't think I've seen or noticed that. And this kind of comes from back in the day when I would listen to records in headphones and I would, hear the sounds moving left and right. And, a lot of times when stuff is static is exactly that. It's a little static. So since we can do that. So if you go through my Instagram feed, you may see some screenshots of these things that I do where I'm
cool. I'll check it out.
Yeah. So that's one. Another one would be, I almost never use the sends for reverbs.
What?
So like, how you have... Yeah, almost never.
Really?
It's maybe 99% of the times I don't.
So how do you set your reverbs?
I duplicate the track, and now that the second one is my reverb or delay, whatever the case, right?
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot quicker. It offers you a lot more flexibility with automations. Again, you can do a lot of shit because now it's an actual track and it's next to the one. And also it gives you the ability of I guess, okay, let me rephrase this. The opportunity of doing a different blend that's going into an effect, which the Sands offer, you lose that, obviously, but you have a dedicated effect for the dedicated sound, right? So you can use the same reverb, just multi down on different tracks, and you can do levels. So you really can achieve the same thing that way. Yes, you're using more CPU, obviously, because you now have double the track count. But it's really cool, and it's a lot easier to do tricks on it. So I've been doing that a lot. I think I started doing that when Pro Tools enabled the the real delay compensation, and you could do parallel things. That's when I started doing it. So that was
cool.
Maybe like 10 years ago or something.
Well, hopefully.
So maybe that's something that's a little
unusual. And I feel like it'll get easier as like maybe in a few years when the new, or maybe even a couple of years from now when the new Apple chips, the new M1s, M2s, because apparently they're so much more efficient.
Yeah, they're powerful.
Yeah, and it'll probably make your life a lot easier.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow. Wait, what else were you going to say? I cut you off.
No, yeah, that's the two things that come to mind, I guess. For another thing that I use, master tracks on Pro Tools to monitor sub mixes, sub buses, those kind of things. That also I don't see that often, but again, it's not. It's just, I guess, a nerdy thing that I do.
Cool. I don't even know. I'm not even totally sure what you mean.
When you send 4 tracks to an aux.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Now you have these 4 going into the aux.
Yeah.
Okay, now you put a plugin, say a limiter or something on that aux. You no longer see what's being fed into it, right? So if you're clipping, if you're doing anything, you can't see it anymore because it's being hidden by the dynamic.
And this must be like a unique to Pro Tools thing, because I'm actually a Logic user.
Okay. Yeah.
But
So what I do is I
yeah.
create a master that's before, or actually it's just looking at the input of the aux. And that allows me to keep an eye
Oh,
on any
okay. I
clipping or
got you.
anything, you know?
Yeah. Well, I would say a nice thing about Logic that I mean, if I don't, it sounds like you're probably most people are stuck with their DAWs. So, but a nice thing about Logic is that it actually because it's those like 64. I'm sure Pro Tools will get this eventually, but it's a 64-bit summing. So the only channel that can actually have clipping is the stereo bus inside of Logic. So you could see red on like an aux bus, and there's no worries because it's not actually clipping.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's the same on Pro Tools. Yes.
Oh, cool. Dope. I didn't know that. What was I going to ask you? Tell me about getting good rap vocals, because that's something that's eluded me, and I've already asked this actually recently on the podcast. How do you get them up front and crispy without, harshness? What's your push to de-essing?
Nice. Okay. So the following is IRKO's recipe for getting good rap vocals.
Yes.
All right. New segment. Okay. So I want to make sure that I retain or fabricate as much intelligibility as I can with dynamics, right? So my first intent is to have those syllables, those words clearly understood by the listener. The way to achieve that, there's a number of different ways, obviously, but the way I go about it is to use a lot of very fast compression slash limiting, actually. So 1176 is most definitely my friend in this. So I go 20-1, and it's compressing a lot.
Wow.
That allows that delivery. Super punchy, very big.
How many dBs of reduction are we talking?
Oh, I'm going balls deep. Yeah, like a lot. I don't know if I can tell you a
Really?
number, but yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's just like.
Oh yeah. How many dBs?
Slapped out.
These many dBs.
Yeah. The audience can't see us like waving our hands like
Yeah.
all the way.
Yeah, all the way.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe, 10, 15, 20, something like that. Like, of course, when limiting, those dBs may sound like it's an incredible amount of compression, but, it's the loudest peaks, of course, But yeah, we definitely want to achieve a very chunky waveform kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. The second thing is we want to get rid of any low end that's not really useful information. So anything under maybe 100 hertz or something like that, don't really need it. It's not really bringing anything. So kill that. And then we want to definitely push up somewhere in the 1, 2, 3, 4 kilohertz kind of area. That depends on the vocal, of course, but that is where the actual information that we were after for the intelligibility lives.
That's what I think of. Like I think of 1K as like, intelligibility or legibility, but heard.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So that's very important, making sure that we have that portion. And then the high end. So the high end, we want to have, the pristine, the high end, we're talking, 6K and up, so like very, very upper part of the frequency range for the vocals. And inevitably, again, and the second you put up the, any shelving or any kind of EQ over there, you got to deal with the S's.
Right, of course.
And so that's another thing that we got to be very, very mindful of controlling, because we do want the high end, we do want the air, but we can have, microwave sibilants cooking the listener, So keep that in check for sure. So this is kind of like a broad direction or roadmap to get good hip hop.
Yeah. Wow. So I didn't know that people were like compressing that hard, but I love it. Tell me a bit about, I guess, do you have a favorite de-esser or favorite tools to keep the S's in check?
Yes, I have a favorite de-esser, and that is the R de-esser from Waves.
Wow.
I've been using that thing for the longest. I remember, I think it was maybe 15 years ago or something, I audited all de-essers that I could find, from the real ones to the digital ones, everything. And that one was the best one. Then I did the same thing again when I fully switched to Pro Tools for mixing. And again, I did like another, blind, quote unquote, blind test with all the de-essers that I was that I had available at the studio where I did it. And again, that guy won. And I don't know if it's because I'm used to it and I know it in and out. But yeah, I use that all the time. And you will find that on every single vocal of my mixes.
Wow, that's crazy. I have to go see if I have that one because I have like I know I have like R bass and R comp, but I'm not sure. And I think I have R.
Then you do, yeah.
I have the gold. I have whatever the gold one is that I got from Waves.
Yeah. So you definitely have. It's in the bundle.
I'm gonna look into it. Very cool. It's an Israeli company, so I actually know people who work there. Love it. Let me see. What else did I want to ask you about? Do you have any other favorite creative tools that you use on like most mixes?
So because the first 10 years of my career, I was working on analog surfaces, consoles and gear, of course. When I did the switch and started mixing digitally, I basically grabbed all the usual suspects that I knew very well in and out, like the 1176 and, the LA2As, the Tube Techs and all that stuff. And I recreated my workflow around those units because I knew them so well. And so you will see all of those, from the 165A to, any kind of tube-like EQ. So I use all of those. And then I slowly added all the other tools that were not based off of digital things or of analog things. Like, for example, the Fab Filter products, those are not really connected to any real units and they're fantastic.
Yeah.
They're EQs I use all the time for surgical kind of procedures. I don't think there's anything that I reach more often than those. And same thing with reverbs. I've had the 480 for a long time. I used it all the time. So when I moved on to Pro Tools, I just audited a bunch of different Lexicon 480 reverb simulators and found the best one that sounded the best, and I've been rocking with that since. But yeah, and nowadays, because a lot of plugin manufacturers are sending me bundles or plugins just for me to have and use. Of course, I have the overwhelming sensation of having 1,000 plugins, and it's like, okay, which one am I gonna fucking use?
Yeah.
So right now, Steph, my recording engineer I was telling you about, is kind of in charge of that. So anytime he bugs me about a specific tool more than a couple times, so much so that I remember the name of the tool, then I'll actually look into it and I'll start implementing it and use it in my workflow. The thing is, you got to think about it like this, right? I'm mixing 200 records every year. So I really don't have the time to be over there and fuck around and try different plugins. Oh yeah, let me just try. Like, I don't have time for that. Like, if I'm in the studio, I'm working.
Yeah.
So I want to deliver the audio for my clients.
And you have the tools, you know your tools.
Yes.
So
I got the tools and I need that. So
there's something about not wanting to experiment with like new tools, especially when it's like it's on other people's dimes, like you got to deliver something for them. Like that's not your time to, let me see,
Yeah. And, truthfully, I do not really need another tube like EQ. I have already like 5. I mostly use one. I don't need another one. Now, if there's, a new plugin that does something else that I don't have, then by all means, or something that I'm not fully satisfied with what I got currently, then of course I will implement and include those new ones in it for sure. But to me, that's not, I'm not one of those nerdy audio engineers that like to just nerd out on nerdy stuff just for the hell of it. I'm not like that. I'm only half that.
Yeah.
The only half is music.
Right.
And that is the driving force around this,
Absolutely. So what's on do you have anything on your stereo bus?
I have, yes, a Mag EQ that I use for very little things. Mainly the airbender things, so like the super high-end frequencies. Sometimes the subs also, but everything I'm telling you about this masters treatment is very, very little. Like I really do little touch-ups. So that will be the first one. And then the second one, I have a Massenburg EQ that I, again, use very, very little for some things. And that's it. And then there's a limiter, and that's it. And those are the
just
3.
Like the Pro L2 or whatever.
Correct.
So you're actually not compressing the stereo bus, just limiting it.
No, I never compress. Well, I shouldn't say never, because sometimes it does happen for band-like things. Yeah, I will do that.
I see.
But I rarely compress the master bus. Yes. I will limit it to get a little more volume, yes, but